Imagine waking up in a giant palace with 30 rooms. You wear a crown that sparkles in the sun, and you have servants who bring you breakfast on a silver tray. You are a duchess, and everyone in the world knows your name. This sounds like a perfect fairy tale, right? But for Sarah Ferguson, the fairy tale turned into a very long nightmare. She had the fancy dresses and the royal title, but she also had a very big secret. She was spending much more money than she actually had. Imagine going to a store and spending $25,000 in just 1 hour. Most people could buy a whole car with that much money, but she spent it all on clothes and shoes in just 60 minutes. This is the true story of how a royal bride lost almost everything she ever had. It is a story about making very big mistakes and picking the wrong people to be your friends. For 40 years, Sarah, who people call Fergie, tried to stay rich, but her plans kept falling apart. Now the police are looking at old records from a private airplane. They are finding out that she was talking to a very bad man to ask for money. She even asked him if she could work as his housemaid just to get a paycheck. This isn't a story about a happy ending. It is a story about what happens when you don't live within your means and try to take shortcuts to get ahead. Stay with us as we explain how it all went so wrong. Back in the summer of 1986, the whole world was watching a beautiful wedding. Sarah Ferguson was marrying Prince Andrew at a big church called Westminster Abbey. She looked like a real-life princess. People all over the world were happy for her. She was now part of one of the most powerful families on the planet. But even during that happy time, Sarah was starting to do things that would hurt her later. She loved to spend money on things she didn't need. She liked the fancy life too much. Even though she was famous and had a title, she was already starting to build habits that would cause her trouble for the next 40 years. These habits were like tiny seeds that would grow into giant problems. Today, she is facing new questions because of old emails that were found. These emails show that she was close friends with a man named Jeffrey Epstein, who was a criminal. Because of this, she is having to close down 6 of her companies. It seems like the past is finally catching up to her. While she was married to the prince, Sarah spent a huge amount of money every single year. She was spending about £860,000 a year. If you look at what she bought, it is hard to believe. She spent £50,000 just on flowers for her house every year. She spent £150,000 on gifts for people. She also spent £100,000 on new clothes. One time, she went to a famous store in New York called Bloomingdale's and spent £25,000 in only 1 hour. The most surprising part is that this wasn't even her own money. She didn't have a job to pay for these things. Whenever the bills came, other people had to pay them for her. Queen Elizabeth had to save Sarah many times. Once, the Queen had to give her £500,000 because a bank said Sarah had to pay them back in 2 weeks or she would be in big trouble. Someone who worked for her said that stores let her buy things without paying because she was a royal. They just let the bills pile up higher and higher. By 1995, Sarah had to tell the public that she wasn't even allowed to write a small check without asking the bank first. When she and Prince Andrew got divorced in 1996, she owed the bank more than $4 million. The royal family had tried to help her for a long time, but they finally decided they couldn't do it anymore. They stopped giving her money to pay off her debts. Even though things were bad, Sarah did not give up. She moved to New York to try to make her own money. At first, it looked like she was doing a great job. She worked with a company called Weight Watchers for 12 years and earned a lot of money. She also wrote books for children that sold well. In 1997, she did something no other royal had ever done. She went on TV to sell juice for a company called Ocean Spray. She got $500,000 for that. By the year 2001, she went on a famous TV show and said she had learned her lesson. She told everyone that she used to be bad with money, but now she was doing much better. But sadly, that wasn't really true. It only looked like she was okay. In 2007, people looked at the records for her charity. They found out that the charity collected a lot of money, but only gave a small part of it to people who needed help. At the same time, people like her accountant and her lawyers were suing her because she hadn't paid them. Then in 2009, her big business in America completely failed. She lost all the money she had made from working on a movie. She owed nearly $900,000. This was a very scary time for her, and it led her to make a very bad choice. She started talking to Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a very bad person who had been sent to jail for hurting young girls. Even though everyone knew he was a criminal, Sarah still talked to him. In 2009, while he was in jail, Sarah sent him emails asking for help. She was thinking about telling the world she had no money left, which is called bankruptcy. She asked him for advice on how to get money from other rich people. She even thought about selling her own jewelry to pay her bills. She even tried to set up a lunch meeting in Miami with Epstein and her 2 daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie. Then, in May 2010, something terrible happened. A newspaper caught her on video doing something very wrong. She didn't know she was being recorded. She took £40,000 in cash from a man she thought was a businessman. She told him that if he gave her £500,000, she would let him meet Prince Andrew. She said that giving her money would open doors to the prince. When the video was shown to the world, Sarah was very embarrassed. She said she was very sorry and that she was just desperate for money. She told Oprah Winfrey that she had hit rock bottom. But there was more to the story that she didn't tell Oprah. Just a few days before that video came out, she had sent another email to Jeffrey Epstein. This email didn't come out until many years later in early 2026. The government found over 3 million pages of notes from Epstein's life, and Sarah was in them. The emails showed that she was always asking him for money and attention. She even called him her pillar, which means someone she relied on for support. In one message, she asked him why he wouldn't just hire her to be his house cleaner. She told him she was very good at cleaning and that she desperately needed a job. It is very sad to think that a woman who used to be a duchess was asking a criminal for a job cleaning his house. People who study the royal family say that 2010 was the worst year for her. Some people say her choices were not just bad, but they were morally wrong. They say she only cared about having a fancy life and didn't care where the money came from. The money problems with Epstein didn't stop at emails. In 2011, it was found out that Epstein gave £15,000 to someone who worked for Sarah to help pay off some of her debts. Reports say Prince Andrew helped make this happen. When people found out, Sarah said it was a huge mistake. She promised she would never talk to Epstein again. But in 2025, more private messages were leaked that showed she didn't keep her promise. In those messages, she told Epstein she was sorry for saying bad things about him in public. She called him a generous and exceptional friend. She even said he was like the brother she always wanted. She told him she was at his service and asked him again when he would give her a job. These messages show that she was still tied to this bad man even when she told the world she had left him behind. After all these secrets came out, everything started to fall apart for Sarah. Charities didn't want to work with her anymore. The people who printed her children's books stopped selling them. 6 of her companies started to close down because they were losing too much money. One of her brands owed over £300,000 and only had a tiny bit of money left in the bank. Because of all this, she also has to move out of her home. She has lived in a huge house called Royal Lodge with Prince Andrew for a long time. It has 30 rooms, but she can't stay there anymore. To make things even worse, in February 2026, Prince Andrew was arrested. The police think he did something wrong when he was working for the government. He says he didn't do anything wrong, but it is another big problem for the family. A woman named Jenny Bond has watched Sarah Ferguson for a very long time. She said that Sarah needs to learn a very simple lesson that we all have to learn. You have to live with the money you actually have. You cannot spend more than you make. Sarah's hunger for money and a fancy life has been the cause of all her sadness. The young woman who stood on the balcony of the palace in 1986 didn't end up here by accident. All the debts, all the scandals, and all the bad emails are connected. Each one happened because she was chasing the next pile of money to save her. She didn't seem to care if it hurt her reputation or her family. She just wanted to keep her expensive lifestyle. Sarah Ferguson's life shows us that being a princess doesn't mean you will always be happy. It also doesn't mean you are safe from making mistakes. If you spend money you don't have and hang out with the wrong people, you can lose your home and your friends. Sarah had many chances to change her life. She made a lot of money on her own by writing books and being on TV. But every time she got a little bit of money, she spent it all and wanted more. She couldn't stop herself from wanting more than she could afford. This led her to ask for help from people she should have stayed away from. Now, at the age of 66, she is facing the consequences of all those years of bad choices. Her companies are gone, her home is being taken away, and her secrets are being told to the whole world. It is a very sad ending to what started as a beautiful fairy tale. It reminds us all that being honest and careful with our choices is more important than having a big house or a fancy title. So what do you think about Sarah Ferguson? Do you feel sorry for her because she was desperate for money? Or do you think she should have known better than to ask a criminal for help? It is hard to imagine a member of the royal family asking to be a house cleaner, but that shows just how much trouble she was in. Her story is one that will be remembered for a long time, but not for the reasons she wanted. Instead of being remembered for her royal wedding, she might be remembered for her money problems and her bad friends. As more documents are found, we might learn even more about what happened behind the palace walls. It just goes to show that even the most famous people in the world have to follow the same rules as everyone else. If you don't, everything you have worked for can disappear in the blink of an eye. The story of the Duchess of York is a warning to everyone. It shows that no matter how much you have, you can always lose it if you aren't careful. She had the world at her feet, but she traded it for flowers, dresses, and a lifestyle she couldn't keep up with. Now, the world is watching her again, but this time they aren't cheering. They are wondering how someone with so much could end up with so little. Her journey from the palace to the courtroom is a long and winding road of bad decisions. We will continue to watch as the police look into the flight logs and the emails. There may be many more secrets still waiting to be discovered in those 3 million pages of notes. Until then, Sarah Ferguson remains a woman who had it all and spent it all. It is a lesson in money and morals that none of us will forget anytime soon. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the life of Fergie. We hope you learned something about the importance of making good choices. Be sure to like and subscribe for more stories like this one. We will see you next time.